Antoinette Frank, 46, may be the worst of the worst. On March 4th, 1995, the rookie New Orleans cop and her boyfriend murdered off-duty cop Ronnie Williams and two members of the family that owned a Vietnamese diner. She is, without a doubt, the most cold-hearted person I've ever met, said New Orleans detective Eddie Rance at the time. Then there's Darlie Rudier.
First. Dr. Leibowitz, what I have been doing is when you get close to the 2 minutes, I've held up a little sign here to tell you you've got 15 seconds left. Okay.
Okay.
If you would please introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Sure. My name's Leslie.
I think you're on mute.
She's unmuted. No, I'm not. How about
Still
now?
can't hear you. Just a moment.
You should be able to hear me now, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for listening today. My name's Leslie Leibowitz. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've been working for many, many years in the field of trauma and doing evaluations of people who've been convicted of capital crimes. So as I'm sure you know, many of the people in those circumstances have histories of very, very serious trauma. What distinguishes Ms. Frank from many, many people is the degree of trauma, which can only be described as catastrophic. Ms. Frank was literally tortured and exposed to almost every form of serious trauma that we know can befall a child. What is particularly important about Ms. Frank is that the trauma never ended. Sometimes childhood is terrible, but then there's a chance for a better adulthood. But for Ms. Frank, the control and the abuse and the domination that began in infancy continued into her adult life and straight through the crime when another powerful man put a gun to her head. Since I wrote the report on Ms. Frank, the field has exploded with research on the neurological and biological effects of trauma. And we now know that the kind of trauma to which Ms. Frank was exposed alters the brain. And in altering the brain, it alters how you perceive and process your experience and what kind of responses you have available to you. I don't know where I am timing-wise. I don't want to go over my time. Oh, okay. Thank you for listening. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Julio, who is your next?
Well, Mr. Dupart, I'm not sure if he's here yet, so if we want to go ahead to Lindy Brasher, I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Lindy Brazier. I'm spiritual companion to Antoinette Frank. I met Antoinette a little over a year ago. The first time I went to visit with her, we sat and we shared a meal together. And we spoke of holy things. And in that moment, I knew I was sitting with someone who was filled with God's Spirit. Antoinette is an image of what life looks like when you're filled with grace. Even though she received no nurturing, as you just heard, as a child, she is a mother figure and nurtures those around her at LCIW, and she's been a sister to me as well as a spiritual companion. I was in New York City this spring attending classes at Fordham, and I left class and I was a little bit distraught, as any doctoral student can get. And I emailed her looking at the Empire State Building, and I'm in tears and just said, I hope she calls. And she called right away. And as I stood there with all the people around me crying, prayed with me. And she gave me the courage to go back into the classroom to defend God's word. So I'm here today to beg you, please don't take her life away. She's my friend. And she's making me a minister to other people's searchings. Please understand.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
Deacon Zeke Nola is next.
Deacon Nola.
I met Antoinette Frank when she was incarcerated at Angola. Soon we began a Bible study, chanting the Psalms and singing the hymns of praise to the Lord. The chaplain supervisor at Angola told me that Antoinette Frank was a generous and caring person, that she shared her resources with indigent women inmates. I witnessed her compassion and concern for fellow women inmates and her passion to do more. If clemency is granted to Antoinette Frank, living in population would be or could be beneficial for more women incarcerated, as well as security. Well, every Tuesday for 17 weeks, we met. And I got to know her pretty good. The men on death row are now given time to mingle outside their cell, on the tier, and even exercise joy together. With her good character and genuine care, what better place to practice community than living in community? And it's our hope and prayer that you have mercy on this Antoinette Frank and grant her clemency.
Thank you very much, sir.
The next witness is Alex Frank, who's on Zoom.
Mr. Frank,
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good.
How are you guys doing?
we're doing good. Mr. Frank, I
Good.
think, I don't know if you've been on Zoom the whole time, but you have 2 minutes to speak. So if you'll introduce yourself, we'll start now.
Yes, sir. My name is Alex Frank, and I'm here with my wife, Rachel Frank, Antoinette's brother. Just want to say thank you guys for taking the time out to actually be there and hearing everything that's going on. I know it's a tough job for you guys as well as us also. But just want to talk about my sister. Like, you know, she's a very, very sweet person. Very motherly, very caring, like everybody's saying. She's been there for me and my family and you know, her brothers throughout this whole situation. I would have loved to have been there today, but I suffered a PE and just about died. So they brought me back. So I couldn't travel. So that's why I'm here via Zoom. But like I said, I would have loved to have been there in support of her and just let her know that you know, that she's very loved and we love her, and she's very supportive of everything that's been going on with me and my wife and my daughter. And she stays in contact with us daily, pretty much. I talk to her at least twice a week. And she's always asking how, you know, how's everybody's doing, how's the family doing, and not so much about, not so much about herself and her situation. She's always, you know, like concerned about everybody else. And I just like, I admire that, you know, that being in her situation, that she's still so caring and concerned about everybody else's well-being. And like I said, I hope you guys have a chance to like meet her and actually see that she's not the person that everybody's portraying and saying she's such a like horrible person. So I think this gentleman has a question.
No, sir. Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Young, Julie Young.
My name is Julie Young, and I was Antoinette's spiritual advisor up until a year ago. Antoinette and I have a God-appointed friendship. I woke up one morning and felt that there was a lady on death row that I needed to reach out and contact. I've never been a part of the prison ministry. All of this was new to me. I had just been praying. I thought, Lord, how will I know which one? And when I began to Google the ladies on death row in Louisiana, I realized that there was only one lady. I reached out to Antoinette and we became friends. She asked if I would be her spiritual advisor, and I was honored to do so. We spent much time face to face in Bible studies, emailing, phone calls. We baptized her a few years ago. Antoinette is a faithful Christian that aims to encourage and exhort others. Her record of behavior has always been good. She enjoys learning, writing, encouraging others, studying her Bible. If her sentence was changed to life, I know that she would have the opportunity to be able to attend church services and more educational opportunities, which means the world to her. I realize the magnitude of this case. I was apprehensive at first when I was first led to reach out to her. But after a while, I realized that the Lord was extending a hand of mercy to her, and I'm asking that you would do the same.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Julia?
Good morning. My name is Letty DeJulio and I represent Antoinette Frank. I'd like to thank the board for hearing this case today and hearing all the cases today. Every one of the cases on the docket today is difficult for their own reasons. In each case, someone died. This board is no stranger to difficult cases. What distinguishes the cases today being heard from the ones usually here is the relief that's being reflected. No one is asking to go home. No one is even asking for a term of years. We are all just asking that you recommend it and no one else should not. I've been representing Antoinette for some 14 years now, and in that time, I personally have been a witness to her strength of character and her active desire to be a better person each day. I know that she was looking forward to speaking to you all today for herself, especially after remaining silent for so many years, and I hope she gets the opportunity to do so. I think you'll find she's remorseful. She takes accountability for her actions, and she constantly demonstrates her growth and self-reflection. She's probably a better spokesperson for herself than I am. But since she's not here, I'd like to tell you the reasons why I would like to ask you for mercy. At the time of the crime, Antoinette was only 23 years old, and she was an incredibly traumatized individual. We've submitted documentation from the Veterans Administration, from witnesses, from experts regarding the sexual, physical, and psychological abuse Antoinette suffered at the hands of her father. It started in childhood and it lasted through her adulthood when she became a police officer. This left her meek and timid, as so many people have reported. We've also provided the board with a letter of support from 50 former prosecutors and experts in gender-based violence who describe Antoinette's what she survived as torture. As Dr. Lebowitz described, what she experienced at the hands of the father was psychologically catastrophic. This information is in no way offered to excuse Ms. Frank's behavior, but is offered to provide context for it. It is impossible to understand this case without understanding Antoinette's life before the crime. In fact, as you've seen from the two affidavits I've submitted in support of her application, 2 jurors said that if they had known what you know now, they would not have been held. The actual jurors have said that they believe Antoinette's trauma history warrants mercy. Antoinette's jury did not know about this. They didn't know about the abuse. They couldn't do anything about it. We do. Second reason that mercy is warranted in this case relates to the circumstances of the crime itself and the co-defendant's sentence. We've provided to the board new evidence that was presented by the state, not by the defense, but by the state, that Antoinette's co-defendant held her at gunpoint inside the kitchen of the Kim Han restaurant and forced her participation. She told police this on the night of the crime. They didn't believe her. And then 20 years later, the state presented evidence corroborating that it was true. In 2019, the same co-defendant had his sentence reduced to life for completely unrelated reasons. I submit that Antoinette should not have a harsher sentence than the person who the state says held a gun to her head to coerce her involvement. Mercy is warranted on that basis alone. Since Antoinette has been in prison on death row, she's determined to come to terms with what happened in 1995. In the years following her trial, Antoinette blamed her co-defendant for bringing this senseless violence into her life. In the years following her trial, but over the last decade, she's had an awakening about her role in this whole tragedy, how she might have brought this senseless violence into other people's lives. Understanding her role in this tragic series of events took tremendous dedication and work. She was committed to doing it no matter what the outcome was. Over the last 28 years, Antoinette has immersed herself in self-help books about trauma, because she had no access to classes, and also has sought spiritual guidance from all of the people who are here today, including Lindy Brasher, Julie Young. Antoinette, at 52 years old, is a different person than she was in 1995 when she was only 23 years old. She has a loving group of family and friends who have submitted written letters of support to this board, many of whom are here today. They describe the strength of her character and her constant efforts to always be a better person. On behalf of Antoinette and on behalf of all of her family and friends, I'm asking you to give her that chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from the opposition. Mr. McGowan, I don't know if you want to go last or.
I was told the last round, we have an order of witnesses, order of speakers to call.
If you'll give me that, do you have a list of that order? I don't know that I have them in order, but
I have first name, Ms. Mary. Go first.
Miss Mary Williams will be first, okay?
Patrick will be second.
I'm not as fast. Patrick is second, okay?
Danny is third.
Dan Burris is third, okay?
Ann is fourth.
And will be fourth, okay? And then Sean Williams will be fifth.
Yes.
And then you, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from Miss Mary Williams.
My name is Mary Williams. I'm the widow of Officer Ronald Williams. I'm speaking on behalf of my family and also Todd and Con Blues family, who could not be here today. We are here before you out of a sense of intense love and fierce protection of the memories and short lives of Ronnie and Todd. We have heard today from spiritual advisors from how much Antoinette has grown. I wonder how much our family members would have accomplished if she didn't realize it. We're vehemently opposed to any type of clemency requested by mass murder on Antoinette Frank and two other attorneys. She is a convicted killer, deemed unfit to exist in society by a jury of her peers, and has been fairly sentenced to death. Our family's collective mental health and welfare has been damaged for 28 years and counting due to Antoinette Frank's and her collaborators' evil actions. She was and continues to be a danger not only to us, but to society. Please, we implore you, do not continue to re-victimize yourself again by even considering this option of clemency. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Mr. Patrick Williams.
Hello, my name is Patrick Williams. I'm the son of Ronald Williams. My father died when I was 10 days old, so he might have told me a handful of times. Never got to meet him. Never got to know anything about him. The only thing I do know about him is from my family. The fact that he's considering doing this in clemency is absurd. She's not only murdered my father, she murdered multiple other people. And thank God we still have the people in our lives. This is absolutely ridiculous. Can't be considering this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Dan Burris.
Very much. I'm here obviously to oppose clemency. We've heard a lot of information about how much Antoinette's grown while we've been here, and about all of her spiritual journey and all of this stuff that's going on. What this board ought to know is it's been 28 years that I've been watching my sister and my nephew and my other nephew who can't be here today suffer through this. Every time they think they're getting over this, something like this comes out in the news again and just rips the scab back open. She was sentenced to death 28 years ago. The fact that we're still here at this point is absurd. I agree with you. This needs to end. Deny clemency, and she needs to go home. But more importantly, I want to take the opportunity because my sister and my nephew and the Williams family and the Boo family, for that matter, has really struggled through something beyond. I don't know how they're strong to do that. My sister's the strongest person I've ever met. She's raised these boys and done a great job raising these boys. What their lives could have been if Ronnie had still been here is probably the biggest unknown that we can have. So while I understand Antoinette would love to go take a self-help class, maybe get a book, or maybe write a book, or maybe, go ahead and lead a prayer group and tell other people about how wonderful she is now. What Ronnie never had the opportunity to do was teach his son how to be good men. Mary had to do that. She did a great job doing that. The Boo family had to raise their kids, and they had to raise their families without their nephews and their brothers and their uncles and their sons. Our families have pulled together a bit. what Antoinette did to these families is amazing. She has ripped them apart. She ripped the soul out of my sister. She ripped the soul out of my nephews. There is no clemency that you can give. There's nothing you can do short of allowing them to attend her execution that will allow them to have any peace to even move on. You must deny clemency, or you're just basically condoning what Antoinette has done to their lives for 28 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ann Williams.
I'm Ann Williams, I'm Ronnie's mother. On June 8, 1969, Ronnie came into our lives. He was a joy in so many ways we never expected. Upon coming home from the hospital, the neighbor's children stood outside our family window just to see his arrival. He was a very happy baby and loved life. I remember the day he first toddled across the kitchen floor with a big smile and arms outheld, thinking, I did it. I thought of his first day at school, and as time flew, graduation came. I remember his first gate. He was so nervous, but then came loving marriage. All these things he will never be able to experience with his children. Sadly, a new baby was born, only a few days old, when my son was brutally killed. He was a young man serving his community as a police officer on extra duty and was dedicated to his job. A devoted husband and father to Patrick and Christopher, a loving family, robbed of a lifetime of memories as they grew. Why doesn't Antoinette Frank deserve clemency? She betrayed the oath of office as a police officer, then killed her partner and the two children. Where was her mercy? My life hasn't been very good. Ronnie was a beloved son, caring and considerate, a good person, only working hard to support his young family. This was not a spur of the moment decision or mistake. It was a planned evil event. I hope you read all my other letters and make a favorable decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Mr. McGowan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean Williams. I'm the brother of Ronnie Williams. Today, I stand before you to discuss a topic of great importance, a matter of justice and well-being of our community. I want to address the issue of granting Antoinette Frank an opportunity for clemency. I firmly believe that this individual should not be granted an opportunity that will explain her reason for her stance. Antoinette Frank, a sworn officer of the New Orleans Police Department, was entrusted with upholding law, protecting our community. However, she not only betrayed the duty, but also her fellow officers. Her actions will go far beyond her mere mistake. They represent a heinous act of murder. My brother, Ronnie Williams, was the victim of cruelty and tragic death and an ultimate betrayal of trust. Ronnie was not just a statistic. He was the father of two boys, a loving husband, a cherished son. His life was cut short by violent and sociopathic act that has left our family forever scarred. Antoinette Frank's disregard of human life didn't end with my brother. She continued on a path of darkness by murdering her own father and her finding the remains under her family home. Her actions didn't stop at murder. She and her accomplice engaged in armed robberies, victimizing other men and women in the community of New Orleans. These men and women were incarcerated, languished behind bars, not only as criminals, but as victims. Antoinette Frank has affected numerous citizens of the city of New Orleans, causing untold pain and suffering. I want to be clear. I understand there can be situations that individuals may have committed crimes and certain mitigating circumstances. But in this case, this is not one of those situations. She has committed murder. She has spent the last 28 years in an institute living off of hard-earned tax dollars, where the families of her multiple victims have never had proper closure. This is not about politics, race, creed, color, or religion. We must remember the purpose of our justice system is not only to protect a heinous crime, but face the appropriate consequences. In conclusion, the facts of the case are clear. Antoinette Frank's actions have caused irreparable pain and suffering for our community. Granting her clemency is not an interest of justice. It is not in the interest of the victims and their families. We must understand to stand united in commitment to upholding the principles of justice, ensuring those who commit such grievous acts face their consequences.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. McGowan?
Thank you, members of the board. Again, my name is Edward McGowan. I'm the first assistant at the Louisiana Parish District Attorney's Office. And we stand with these victims and survivors of the next of kin as they bring their words to you today in regards to this brutal triple murder. My office, in support of these next of kin, has submitted their written statements as well, including those who think who watched their family members gunned down in front of them, still live that terror. There is little I can do to add to their eloquence, to their pain, to the courage to come here today to write their letters. But my office also filed a notice that was a great concern for us, and that is that this proceeding has taken the Louisiana Bill of Rights for victims and violated both the letter and spirit of that legislation. The legislature in its wisdom has enshrined for victims of crime and for survivors and next of kin the right to come forward and to have a substantive voice at every stage of the proceedings. And these proceedings, with all due respect, have reduced their statements to 120 seconds. 120 seconds after 28 years of waiting. We are here today, and they were forced to undergo the humiliation of jockeying for position and making sure that no one infringed on the mere 10 minutes that this proceeding allowed. And that, in addition to the words of their pain, of their suffering, of what's going on for the last 28 years. In addition to that, there's the lawyer's obligation to remind this board that those rights have been trampled on. Again, the Bill of Rights here was supposed to provide these family members and these survivors substantive voice in the process, and it's been reduced to 2 minutes or less. And again, we were jockeying just minutes ago for a mother and a widow and a brother to make sure they even had the full 120 seconds afforded by this process. And we object to that. We ask, on behalf of this family, can you listen to their words and their pain, and you give those words and these voices the weight they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ready to vote? Yes, okay. Mr. Freeman, calling you first.
Okay. First off, I think everybody showed up here today. I'm very sorry for both sides having to go through this again, especially the victim side. I know how that is. Can't put myself in your shoes, but I do appreciate you being here today. Due to the heinous nature of the crime, I mean, she killed a fellow officer and the Booth family, who she claimed was like her family, but yet she killed them. And law enforcement and victim opposition, my vote is to deny.
Mr. Jackson.
This is an administrative review. This is not a decision on the ultimate outcome of the case. We have certain guidelines that we look at to see whether or not a person is eligible for hearing. And I have reviewed those guidelines. One is the applicant has to have served at least 15 years in prison, and she's done that. We look at their disciplinary record, and they have to be disciplinary free for at least 24 months We usually look at 36 months. Ms. Franks has been write-up free since December of 2018. She has had some programming given her status as death row inmate. She has not had access to a number of programs. But again, if you look at our requirements for a hearing, Ms. Franks meets those requirements. And my vote would be to grant her a clemency hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Russia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I give my vote, I'd like to thank both the victims and the supporters for Ms. Franks. I'd like to say that basically I disagree with the legal representation of the offender. This is a administrative hearing to see whether or not we would hear the application of Ms. Antoinette Franks for a commutation of sentence. This is not a reprieve. This applicant does not have an execution date. She's been incarcerated for 28 years and she does not have an execution date. She is in no danger of being executed by the state of Louisiana. This is all about commuting this death penalty to a sentence of life without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension and sentence. If she gets that recommendation today, and but if this, we accept her application and she gets a recommendation, the governor signs it, she will be commuted to a life sentence without benefits. In 5 short years, she can get a second bite at the apple and get commuted to a number of years. If successful and gets the governor's signature, she will be automatically eligible for parole under Act 122 of the Louisiana State Legislation 2021. So this is not about being compassionate or being merciful and stopping the execution of an individual. This is about creating an avenue, an interstate, for this applicant eventually to be released on parole. And I want to make that clear to everyone today. And when I've been doing this for 8 years, and when I look at an application who's applying for a pardon, a commutation of sentence, I have to look at that person as that person is today. Ms. Franks' general disciplinary conduct is unacceptable. She has 27 write-ups and 28 years of incarceration. The last 3 write-ups were 2018. She had defiant, she had aggravated disobedience, and she had an aggravated fight only 5 years ago. As a death row offender, I'd like to see a longer period of time where I see no disciplinary issues. To be eligible for a commutation of sentence or a hearing, you have to be free for 2 years. We look at 3 years. But as a member of this board, I have discretionary, and I'd like to see a longer period of time where I see no disciplinary issues. She has opposition from the legal community. The chief legal officer of the state of Louisiana, the Louisiana Attorney General's office is opposed. The New Orleans Police Department, her former employer, is strongly opposed. We have a letter from the
Louisiana State Troopers Association that's opposed. The community at large, we have 4 letters from residents in East New Orleans firmly opposed to any clemency. Opposition from the Williams and the Root family. The egregious act of first-degree murder of 3 individuals. And it is what it is. It was a premeditated plan to rob and ended up in murdering of 3 individuals. For all those reasons, I deny this application.
Thank you, Mr. Rocher. I'd also like to thank both sides for coming, victims as well as those persons here on behalf of Ms. Frank. As Judge Jackson pointed out, this is an administrative hearing. We have certain criteria that we look at. Having reviewed the entire record, including the public comments, as well as those in favor and those against granting this hearing. My vote today would be to grant the hearing. However, the vote today is 2 to grant and 2 to deny. The hearing has been denied. The application is.
Y'all can start hitting that when you leave. The way you have. Thank you.
Board of Pardons is called back to order. The time is 9:56. Our next case is Mr. Clifford G. Derus, DOC number 313243, date of birth, October. He's a third-class felony offender. He was sentenced on November the 4th of 1996, first-degree murder to death. November the 4th of 1996, first-degree murder to life. On May the 28th of 1996, illegal possession of stolen things. November the 4th of 1996, theft. And November the 4th of 1996 on simple burglary. Here today, speaking on his behalf is Nalia Campbell, his attorney. Not speaking is Matilda Carbia. Speaking is Kenneth Derus. Brittany Baptiste Derus. Not speaking is Robert Morris. Lauren Guthrie. Speaking is Tracy Deluse. Christopher Derus. Not speaking Devin Derus. Dan Bright. Speaking Sharif Cousin. David Fitzgerald. Not speaking Pamela Clayton. In opposition, present but not speaking, Mr. Zachary Daniels. Mr. Edwin McGowan, the attorney, will be speaking. Verona Nakampasa will be speaking. Dana Nakampasa will be speaking. Glenn Riches will be speaking. Terry Bourgeois, present but not speaking. Michael Riches speaking. Clara Matamoris speaking. Mana Letitia Matamoris not speaking. Fabio Delasanto, present but not speaking. Giselle Shakespeare, present but not speaking. Pam Achapinti, present but not speaking. Michael Burton, present but not speaking. Monique Lapara, speaking. Douglas Denzer, speaking. Keith Collins, speaking. Judy Jones, not speaking. Joe Ainsworth, present but not speaking. Alton Adams, present but not speaking. Mandy Maley, present but not speaking. Nola Booth, present but not speaking. Charlene Mara, present but not speaking. We have a lot of people here and we do appreciate everyone coming. I want to reiterate our time limitations. There will be 10 minutes per side. We have figured out 5 persons, 2 minutes each. And then 5 minutes for each lawyer. So I want you to be aware of that. When we get to 10 minutes, we're going to cut you off. I apologize for that, but that's our rules. It was in the agenda. Everyone was aware of that when they came here today, and we're going to have to hold true to that. So we're going to keep time. When you get, I assume the first 5 people will take 2 minutes. When you get to 1 minute and 45 seconds. I'm going to raise this up. You got 15 seconds left to go. Okay. So we do have more than 5. If you want, bearing that in mind, if you want a particular order to call your witnesses in, I will be glad to do that to both sides. Having not known what order you want, I'm going to call in order that I called out. So
I think we did it. Order.
I don't have it. Do we have an order? I had an order on the previous case. I'm sorry.
Is it Tracy Christopher Kenneth? Is that the
Yes,
one?
that's right.
They've been scratched out, but
Yeah,
that's,
well,
that
that
doesn't
don't-
mean anything.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right. Does the opposition have an order?
I'm not.
I have 5 speakers in.
If you don't mind, give them to me and I'll write them down.
Yes. First is Michael.
I'm sorry, I've got a big list here. That would be
Riches.
Michael Burton,
Riches. Michael Riches.
or Michael Rich. Oh, Michael. No, I don't. Yeah, I got you. I'm sorry. Mr. McGowan, who else?
Second is Sandy.
No. I'm sorry, you said Sandy, last name is Riches. I don't see the name on the list. Did I call that name out?
Yes.
And it's Sandy is the first name?
Riches, and a card was filled out.
I have Glenn Riches and I have,
It's also saying.
He's not, sir.
Glenn Richards.
Glenn Richards is not speaking. It's not.
I don't have Sandy Riches, no. Okay, but I'll write that in. Sandy Riches.
Thank you.
Okay, and your third one?
Brian.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
No. Doug Denzer, Brian, did you say?
That's correct.
Brian.
Brian Denzer.
Okay, Brian, I don't have Brian. I'm sorry, I have you only listed as Douglas Denzer, so Douglas Denzer, okay. That's your third. Who is your fourth?
Fourth is Miss Dana.
First name was
Dana. Yeah.
Dana, okay, and your fifth,
Keith. Collins.
Keith Collins, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now hear from those in support of Mr. Derus. Our first speaker will be Tracy Derus.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
My name is Tracy Derus. I'm the sales brother, Clifford's uncle. Just want to say a little bit about Clifford, was a troubled kid, had trouble in school. Education was bad for him. He didn't, read or write, but none tried to help. But he really was a good kid. Really didn't have any trouble out. Now, the time he served in jail here, he been, mentoring. My sons, I got 3 boys, never been in trouble, don't want to be in no trouble, so they understand what can happen. I just need to say that, him getting his education in jail is a good thing, you know, he's at home and all that, he's proud of it. I just want to say he's not the same person he was years ago. He's a totally different person than he was. And, we love him to death. We really do. We love him. And, we like to continue to see him and help him and him counsel and talk to my son. You know, like I said, I got 3 boys from 23 to 33, and none of them ever been in trouble. You know? So I just like to thank you guys for having us here this morning, for giving me a chance to speak in his behalf. Because he's still a part of our family, and I go and see him as often as I can. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. We'll now hear from Mr. Christopher Derus.
Name Clifford Derus. I'm the nephew of Clifford Derus. I just wanted to say something about him. He's not the same person that he was when he first went to jail as a child. You know, the age might not see the mental and everything else, but still adolescent. He's very supportive, like emotional, and within everything. He's not to downplay what he did and think. He's very accepting. He's very accepting of everything that happened and everything else. He doesn't really regret. He's known for mentoring others and as well as on the streets or in prison as well as younger guys who were there, who remind him of the age he was when he got there. He's found Christ in a way that I cannot explain. Like his faith is like unmatched. And I just ask you guys to mute a sentence because he does have something to offer to other people in life. Like he does have something to offer this world in general. It doesn't matter like if it's in general population, he does have something that he can add on to the world. And I just appreciate you guys for listening to me and giving me this opportunity. I want to say thank you. And
Thank you very much, sir, for your comments. Appreciate your comments. Next, we'll hear from Kenneth Derus.
I'm Clifford's brother. I'd like to say that through this process, my brother was he didn't have some things in life coming up so far as structure. Unfortunately, it took him to go to prison to get the structure that he needed, discipline, mental health, mental illness that never was addressed when unaddressed. I can remember the good times when we were kids, going to King's House with the community center, where we all played football and swimming during the summer, on weekends, we was happy go lucky kid. So far as Clifford, you know, we say that he's a different person, he wasn't the same. The thing was, before this all happened, he wasn't the same person the week before this. The person that I saw on the news, I didn't recognize. That wasn't my brother. So the person he is now is who he is. He's got a chance to get education. He's talking about somebody that didn't know how to read or write. He obtained a GED and he fought hard for it. It wasn't easy. It was something that he actually struggled. We talk about it on the phone. He was concerned, worried about failure. He has. I just think that he actually can offer, you know, like you say, somebody young just coming up, tell them, you know, the things that went wrong in his life. And he could actually be a part of the, I guess, Angola community and mentoring, being productive so far as working. Actually adding something, not taking away. So far as our family, we support him. We love him. We have a lot of family that cares about him, asks a lot of questions. And just moving forward, I just like to say that he's never was a malicious person. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
So I kind of know. Should we cut?
Now we'll hear from, I'm sorry, now we'll hear from Mr. Sharif Cousin.
Thank you, Lord, this morning. I'm number 77, that's the 77 person took me down and from death row. And came to be a talk in support of Clifford, because I was a 60-year-old child on death row. So, as a child on death row, Clifford was instrumental in helping me to maintain my sanity while I was on death row. Even though I was on death row for a crime I didn't commit, I was able to understand and know and meet and got opportunity to talk to a lot of the guys regardless of their criminal situation. Clifford, I can say, was a friend because he never advised me any wrong things. He was in a cell next to me. I was able to read and write some letters for him, and we talked about him getting education. I'm glad and to hear years later, he was a man of his word. On behalf of Clifford and the family, and on behalf of a lot of guys that's on death row, I asked Dan to come with me. He's also on death row with me as well, and Clifford. We know that we can never bring anyone back. And I want to address that, I'm sorry. But we also know that if we're here, we have something to offer. And I'm here to ask the board just to offer him a hearing, at the very least. To see and hear about some of the good things and the things that he's accomplished, even being on death row. As a kid on death row, I never imagined I would be free one day, even though I was innocent. But as a free man, the least I can do is to drive to Baton Rouge and ask for support for another person just to have a hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from David Fitzgerald.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've worked with the ministry and have been with this ministry in Angola a number of years now. And we brought the first Lucia basically to death row in February of 2018. And this is, biblically based. If you're a Christian, that the corporal works of mercy, and we will visit prisoners. It's commanded to do that. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be on death row with these men that we were able to minister to. Part of what we bring is a message of redemption, forgiveness, and rehabilitation. And we're not naive. We know we don't get them all. We get some of them. Clifford is one of them. I've known him since 2018. I have met with him at least monthly before COVID in a prayer and share environment where the prisoners lead us. We're their guests. They take part of the Bible and teach the lessons, and we discuss it. And Clifford has done an outstanding job. When I read his record, it said that he was a slow learner. He's transcended that part. He really has done a good job, and it has taught me some stuff about the Bible. I wouldn't want to argue with him about that. I think he would be great in the general population. He would probably end up being a trustee. He's that, and I'd like to see him get that chance. We have a lot of justice in Louisiana. We need some mercy now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear from Ms. Campbell.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to address you And thank you to everyone who has spoken today and who will speak on this. Clifford Derus is intellectually disabled. He has an IQ score of 74, was in special education classes since the age of 10, and was noted to be functionally illiterate with mild to moderate social adaptive skill deficit. Despite his intellectual deficits, Clifford has become a model example of the prison system working as it was designed. Before his arrest, he was a high school dropout, not able to stay sober more than a couple of days. He stole cars and did whatever he could to fund his habit. Since being in prison, Clifford has dedicated his life to Christ and has been sober for more than 2 decades. And after over 20 years of trying inside and outside of prison, his proudest accomplishment is obtaining his GED in 2022. Clifford takes any opportunity to better himself, including actively participating in Alcoholics Anonymous, Page Your Raid, Thinking for a Change, obtaining a CPR certificate, and participating in a number of religious programming along with other programs offered out of prison. Clifford has proven that he is not the worst of the worst and that his life still has value. He has become a mentor and counselor to those that are in danger of following in his path. Even from within the confining walls of death row, Clifford has had a profound impact on people's lives inside and outside of prison. His uncle Tracy, brother Kenneth, nephew Christopher, sister-in-law Brittany, family friend Cherie, and spiritual advisor Terry have all traveled here to speak on his behalf to attest that he has and will contribute meaningfully to his community. We understand that at the center of this inquiry is a huge loss and have compassion for the unending grief that the victim survivors have experienced daily. We ask only that the board grant Clifford the opportunity to demonstrate that he is a changed man. We implore you to see that his life has value and he can continue having a positive impact on those that encounter him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from the opposition. We'll first hear from Mr. Michael Richards.
Thank you for the time to speak today, and I respect the tremendous power that you all have. Strongly oppose this person for any type of clemency. It's deeply traumatic to think about clemency, considering the horrific things he did to my family and Gary Booker's family. Committed senseless acts of violence against strangers that he wanted to rob and steal from. I'm sick to my stomach as I'm reading this. I hope you all consider 28-year-old, very deep wounds and scars that continue to be ripped open if my family continues to struggle with this tragedy. I understand each case deserves a review and that many other cases possibly deserve your time. If you've reviewed all these details and you think he deserves clemency, then I ask you to consider clemency for me and my family and be lenient on us so that we do not have to keep going through this. This is very difficult. Please hear all of our pleas and help us close this difficult chapter. The pain and suffering that I thought was way over is still taking tolls on my family. Please allow our justice system's unanimous decision to stand and to change this decision based on misguided, positive intentions destroys the very core and foundation of justice. Justice has been decided and let justice. My name is Michael Riches, brother of Dan and Shop, the sack shop by Clifford and survived, and Etienne's uncle who was murdered with a very heavy heart.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Sandy.
My grandson, Etienne the shop sack, was taken
in a heinous attempted carjacking on November the 6th in New Orleans. My daughter, Hannah, was shot 4 times. 2.5-year-old Vinaya was in the car and had injuries from flying glass. That day changed my family's life forever. The loss never goes away. The empty chair at each holiday, birthday celebrations, and every life that Etienne did not have a chance to live or be a part of. He was sentenced to death that day. By Clifford. I can only imagine the young man that Etienne would have been. I think of the impact he would have had on our lives and the world. We know that Mr. Derus shot and killed Etienne. He was convicted and given the death penalty. I do not believe he should be given clemency due to the horrific crime he committed. The extreme pain and memories the family must go through in these cases are brought forward is devastating and gut-wrenching. Just to relive all of the details, which all of this brings back, and the pain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll hear from Mr. Douglas Genzer.
My name is Douglas Genzer. I was a neighbor of the Nishampsek family when this occurred. I was present to witness the carnage that was disturbed. I regret that we have to be here. I regret that you, the members of this panel, have to consider this. You're considering the futures of the most heinous criminals in Louisiana history. And you may hide behind your rules, as this is just an administrative hearing. But we understand that if this matter proceeds, this family will be re-victims as they have been every day of their lives for nearly 30 years. I hear that Mr. Derus has pursued an education that he's not the same person. Etienne Nishampsek was unable to pursue an education. He can't be present because Mr. Derus ended his life at 11 months old. At 11 months old. After Mr. Derus got the purse that he wanted to obtain money. And the family, Dana, attempted to drive away from the scene. He callously fired his gun into the back of a vehicle with 2 babies in it. One of those bullets passed through the brain of Etienne Nishampsek, who died 2 days later in the hospital. He couldn't be saved. Today you're trying to save Mr. Derus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I regret that he had a difficult childhood. But I regret that he had a difficult childhood. The only mercy he deserves is the mercy that his creator might grant him.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Ms. Dana.
There are no words. There are no words. I feel love. Compassion for everybody in this room. It's not just about me. It's not just about that baby. Well, so much life. And I have so much compassion. So sorry. Clifford didn't, his life led him to the moment that I met him. I looked him in the eyes, saw his face. He had a gun pressed against my head. I couldn't get out of my car. I wanted to obey him. I wanted to open the door. He was screaming, "Get out of the car! Get out of the car!" I tried to open the door. I couldn't. I wasn't going to push against the gun. I said, my babies are in the car. He took the gun and he pointed it at each child's head. I knew at that moment, someone's gonna. The bullets that would be found at Ken's head, that I still have in my body today, still have bullets in my body today, were also found in the back of Gary Booker, who he shot 8 times and was witnessed by his peers. There's overwhelming evidence. My husband at the time fought with him, got the gun out, but before he did shoot at Rana. He got the bullet and went through his shirt. I'm just sharing this because there's no doubt that he did it. Maybe we're not, that's not the point today. And I do have compassion. There's no second chances for Etienne. There's no second chances. Justice must be upheld. I thought our system was here to protect us, protect the innocent. Every time we go through this, I can't even go outside my house sometimes. I'm terrified. And I pray for him, but he never once showed mercy or remorse to me. And I will say, if God is in his life, he could have written me a letter. And the one person that said, "You're sorry," thank you. I appreciate that. It means the world to me. But he never, ever once sent me a letter. He laughed at my mother at the trial when she saw those images of his autopsy. He laughed at her. He laughed at her. So I pray that God finds his heart. I do. But his judgment, it will be God. But please, no clemency. Please, I beg of you. Thank you.
ma'am.
Steve Collins, pastor from New Orleans. I had the responsibility and care of loving this family through this event 28 years ago as a pastor. It was a horrible experience. It was a fog that sat on all of our lives. I was also not just their pastor, but a friend. I had a daughter who was born 3 months after ATM. They were playmates. I had the privilege of walking my daughter down the aisle this year. They will never experience that because their son was sentenced to death, and no one can undo that. And I know you guys carry a lot of weight, and I've heard lots of folks speak today. I'm a pastor. I believe in mercy. I am grateful for the mercy of God. I preach it every Sunday from the pulpit. But the same Bible that we're referring to, God reveals himself in a certain way in Scripture. When he speaks to Moses and he says to Moses, "I am the Lord God, compassionate, merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in loving kindness, who does not allow the guilty to go unpunished." That's one sentence. The same God said all those things. The role of government is to enforce justice. Justice means nothing if someone is found guilty and all they have to do is say, "I wish I hadn't done that." Well, then everybody gets to go free. That's not justice. I'm grateful for change. The mercy that Clifford needs, you can't give him. None of us can give him. Only the Creator can give him the mercy that he needs. And that mercy is made known through Jesus Christ and the forgiveness of sins and eternal life. And that is available to Clifford every day. He has every opportunity to receive the mercy of God. God's job is to give mercy. The role of government is to enforce justice. Please have mercy on this family. Please have mercy on the community that you represent by creating a deterrent that others will not become guilty of this because they recognize a death sentence truly is a death sentence.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your comments. Mr. McGowan?
Again, members of the board, thank you. Edward began with his office. And on behalf of these family survivors and victims of the heinous fraud that the defendant undoubtedly committed. Again, we supported this family in the process. We submitted, in addition to their testimony today, the words that they wrote to this board. And we also, again, submitted our notice that the strictures put on their input today were in violation of the Victims' Bill of Rights Act. There is little I can do, nothing I can do to add to the eloquence and pain and courage, sorrow that they expressed today, that they have lived certainly every day for the past 30 years. I do want to highlight that this mother drove 12 hours for her 2 minutes today. The burden that this process has put on this family has been intense and horrific. And your board members have an incredible power today, incredible y'all taking an incredible amount of time to deliberate and issue your rules. But again, I ask you to consider the Victims' Bill of Rights. Thank you for allowing them to come and to express their concerns and their grief. But also in your vote, please give their words action. Give their words action and help give them closure and help put their grief to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. We're ready to vote? Mr. Freeman?
Okay, first off, I want to reiterate what Mr. Roche said earlier. You know, I've been in law enforcement 37 years. I was head of probation parole, and I've seen laws change. I've seen where once you were on parole and when you got revoked, you did day for day. You know, one bite at the apple. Now they eat the whole apple and you get revoked on the same supervision 3 or 4 times. And it very much does work on my conscience that these people, if we put them in general population, are 1 step from walking out the door. I just wanted to say that what Mr. Roche said is in fact a possibility. But with this case, I look at it and, you know, he not only killed 1 person, he killed 2 people. Okay, 1 11-month-old child. That's just hard to fathom. He has a very poor supervision record. He was on supervision at the time this offense occurred. He has 25 write-ups, and one of them they found an ice pick in his cell. And victim and law enforcement opposite position, my vote is to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Ms. Jackson?
Thank you. At the risk sounding, I don't know the word to describe it. I think someone has addressed it that it is looking more procedure than people. I'll make sure you seeing your pictures. I read the file. And I think we've taken what should have been a process where we're only deciding if a person gets a chance to make a case. And as horrific as this case is, and I don't minimize it in any way, there are people that we have given hearings to who have done as bad or worse. We've heard their cases, and some of them we have denied, and some of them we have made recommendations. And so to suggest, I would take exception with my colleague that granting an application, granting a right to at least make your case does not mean you gotta get relief. Look at our statistics. People get denied all the time after they've had a hearing. The purpose today is we have put some procedures in in place to guide us in helping us decide whether or not the person is entitled just to a hearing. That's all. And as I've reviewed Mr. Derus's file, he does in fact meet the guidelines that we have set in place. Again, if he's granted a hearing, that doesn't mean he's granted relief. The outcome may still be the same, except you have the assurance, and everybody in this room has the assurance that that person had every opportunity to make their case before they are executed. She had an opportunity. I understand. I do understand. And anytime someone has lost a loved one, that feeling is real and is raw. And these cases are always very. But again, I look at the fact that his disciplinary record meets the standards that we set just for a hearing. I'm not even saying it will get relief, but for a hearing, the amount of time that he served and the other consideration, I believe that he does meet the minimum requirements for a hearing. And so my vote today would be to grant his request for a hearing. And that's all I'm doing. Granting his request for a hearing. So that is my vote.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I deliver my decision, I'd like to acknowledge after a very long struggle, the offender earned a GED. And most people thought he was illiterate, he had disabilities, but he earned a GED. He's completed 3 courses, anger management, thinking for change, and he should be commended for that. But his disciplinary conduct record is undesirable. He had a disciplinary write-up in December of 2019 for fighting, less than 4 years ago. I know our standard to accept an application for this review is 2 years, but I have the discretion and I need to see a longer period of time where I see no disciplinary write-ups. 90% of all his write-ups in the last 28 years has been a serious, aggravated Class B write-up. We're not talking minor write-ups, we're talking about disobedience, aggravated work offense, aggravated sex. We're talking about 90% of all his write-ups are aggravated. And the last one is less than 4 years ago. This is his 3rd felony conviction. He is a 3rd felony convict. He's not a newbie. This was his 3rd felony conviction. He has an extensive juvenile background, and he committed a very egregious offense. Prior to killing an 11-month-old baby 2 or 3 days ago, 2 or 3 days before that, he killed Mr. Gary Booker in attempts to rob him for Mr. Booker's hard-earned money. There's opposition in this case from law enforcement, Orleans Parish DA's office, the Attorney General of the state of Louisiana has sent a very strong letter of opposition. Both families are adamantly opposed to any clemency in this case. And I'd like to see more programs. He's taking anger management, thinking for a change, and making peace with the past. But as I understand it and read, he has a substance abuse problem. He needs to address that. For all the reasons I just mentioned, I'm denying the application.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. I'd like to thank all of the participants here today, all of the people on behalf of the victims and their families here today, as well as those people here who are in favor of the application. This is a hearing, an administrative hearing to determine whether or not Mr. Derus is entitled to a hearing. In our rules and our procedures, he has met all of them. I have reviewed all of the documentation that was submitted. I've reviewed all of the comments that were made today, as well as everything that I've read before. And under our guidelines, under what we do for administrative hearings, my vote would be to grant his application to have a hearing, not to release him, but to have a hearing. That's my vote. Today's vote is 2 to grant and 2 to deny. The application for hearing has been denied.
Thank you.